assiduously climbing up the wall, and the rose is another symbol of Mary. But a really good artist would see how the bricks are all sort of lined up in the courses of the one line that goes right into his mouth. And they think that a good artist wouldn't have done that. They'd have put that line somewhere else. So I don't know. If you want to read up on it, see, I don't know. Anybody good at birds? Because they're going to be something. No birders. They're not pigeons, and they're not ducks. They actually look like magpies. That looks like a magpie. Magpies were thieves, usually sort of spiritual thieves in this sort of a kind. Anyway, won't worry about it. So this is the bit that I really like, I think, more than the others, because it's just so comfortable and nice and friendly and everything. Because old Joseph here, he's just so engrossed in what he's doing. And again, it's the idea that he is the carpenter. I think once more there's a kind of tribute to the... Because again, see, remember we're coming out of the Middle Ages, basically, when there's maybe a little bit more honour in labour, because the workers before this time were just, treated like slaves, and they couldn't own property or vote or anything. So now at this point you're trying to kind of make... Well, you're doing God's work. I think that was sort of the idea. So, there's honour in it. And so the way that he's portrayed here is really quite wonderful. And as in so many of these images, you learn an awful lot about 15th century, carpentry practice. I mean, every tool that you can see on the table is unbelievably... I mean, again, everything should be on the floor because it's sort of that high viewpoint. But chisels, and even how the workbench is put together with... I flunked woodwork in high school, but what sort of a joint is that? Where you just make a hole and you stick the upright in. It's not a mortise and tenon, or is it? No carpenters here either?
It's not like a dovetail, is it?
It might be a dovetail. Yeah, that's good enough. Yeah, sure. And look at saws and axes and hammer. I mean, everything you could possibly need to be a carpenter. And the drill that he's actually using here. But see, look at things like this. Again, sort of very handy. We're looking out into the street, but actually a different viewpoint from those. We're a little bit higher up, I think, looking out. These are really handy. I mean, this is your workshop, and it's also your shop. So you put sorry, keep hitting the wrong button. You just hinge. You see the hinge. You hinge down that little bit, and you put whatever you're selling there. And that's my next question: is what's he selling? So have a little think. And then at the end of the day, you put down your shutters here, and you've had little things that look like skate protector things, and you just flip them up. The shutters go down, and you go home. So that's rather cleverly done. Now, look at this thing. There's a lattice work divider there. What in God's name are you thinking about doing that? Because if you just have a plain piece of wood, it's bad enough because you've got to do sort of fake grain on it. But this thing here, just endless extra hard work. Maybe you give your worst apprentice that job, somebody who's been misbehaving, you say, okay, you're going to make lattice work for the next 6 weeks. Because that's a ton of just labour intensive there that's going on. Yeah.
So, sorry.
It's all right.
There's a lot of questions and then...
Well, why don't you save them up and ask me afterwards?
All right.
Okay? Unless you get something really burning that you can't live without an answer immediately. But they're rather nice that all these little people trotting around in the street, aren't they? Can you see what he's making and selling? What? None of you are reading ahead, obviously. What? What? Do you know? Wait. Do you know?
Go ahead, Robert.
Go. 1, 2, 3, go.
He's making the panel to drink for wine. So
No, easy. No. Who told you
I
that?
read it in the book.
Oh, that's right. See, that's why you shouldn't read books. No, actually, do you know what? That might be that.
Yeah, but the other thing's a mousetrap.
There you go. That's the correct
It's
answer.
not a mousetrap, like...
Yeah.
That's a mousetrap right there.
Yeah.
And he's made that's got a bit of
Because
it.
That's a smaller one.
That's what books have said.
Yeah.
But is it a mousetrap?
It is a mousetrap.
How
It's the better mousetrap.
books
So you
have
put your
said
bit of
that.
cheese in there and it goes.
Well,
But why? But the point is not if it's a mousetrap or not. But why is he making a mousetrap? Because he is. Because I have to quote from something here. Because
Joseph...
now you have what?
So he's supposed to be Joseph, right?
He is Joseph, the earthly father of
The
Christ.
earthly father
Yeah.
of Christ is making
A a mousetrap.
A mousetrap,
Because
even though he's a
It
carpenter.
represents.
that's his job. Yeah. Sorry?
It's a trap the devil. Exactly.
It is to try. Okay, I'm going to give you the actual quote because that's what it is. You have to go. You have to all go home and read Saint Augustine. No, don't do that. Because it said the devil exulted when Christ died, but by this very death of Christ, the devil is vanquished, as if he had swallowed the bait in the mousetrap. What he rejoiced in was his own undoing. The cross of the Lord was the devil's mousetrap. The bait by which he was caught was the Lord's death. In other words, when Christ is on the cross and he dies, executed like a common criminal, the devil thinks, oh good, I win. But in fact, as if you're a Christian, you know that that was Christ's victory over death and the devil and everything else. So,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a question. Look
What?
at how he's holding that drill.
yeah, strongly.
I've seen those kind of drills and I've used those kind of drills. Why is he, like, how is he making holes when he needs two hands to use that kind of drill?
That's the-
Use his body weight.
yeah, he's using the body to
It's,
hold
it's
the
his
pole.
body weight. He pushes against
Yeah,
it.
he's
But
going to
it's
turn
on
it
an
around
angle,
like that.
it's like,
It looks a little bit on the wrong angle,
it's
doesn't
on
it?
it's not on.
I don't know if you can read things absolutely, totally, literally.
Okay.
Just give him a little bit of latitude. But I mean, just look at even the little chips in the table. I mean, on and on and on. But remember what I said was that well, Joseph, as we'll see, is quite depressed. Not because his wife is suddenly having babies that he's nothing to do with, but he well, that might be part of it. But he feels, again, according to the legends about him, that he wasn't making enough money as a carpenter to support the wife and baby. So that's why he's quite often in the pose of melancholy. Anyway, I think this is a pretty good picture. So that's, as I said, as I'm going along, I will sort of give you little warnings about what might be on an exam. And this will be fairly high on my list, but we do have a few more other good things to look at along the way. So, hang on, I'm going to get into my next folder here. So this is the... Actually, what I want to just, before we get into Jan van Eyck, the point, but I want to show you this, because there is, as I say, this kind of grey area where people argue and discuss various attributions of various paintings. And this is one of the more famous ones that's been sort of... it's become quite almost notorious for changing attribution. And I don't want to go into any detail, but what this is, that after Christ dies, he's put in the tomb. A couple of days later, he rises, 3 days? He rises and that's the resurrection. And unfortunately, there are too many Marys in the Bible. There's Mary, Christ's mother, there's Mary Magdalene, there's another couple of... Anyway, 3 Marys show up at the tomb. And there's an angel, the soldiers are gone to sleep, and an angel says, well, you just missed him. He'll be back, come back tomorrow. That's, the idea of the resurrection. So what you got, this very odd-looking city of Jerusalem in the background. This sort of strange slant of the roof of the tomb that's been turned around there. These wonderful soldiers who are just sort of snoozing away rather nicely. But the thing is that this was always given, that we're getting into Jan van Eyck, but to complicate things, he has a brother called Hubert. And Hubert is the real mystery man. He died fairly early on. But this was always, anything that's not quite good enough to be by Jan van Eyck, but it looks for a long time just given, it must be by Hubert. When we were looking at this one, it's this chappie here, and I can't zoom in that much to show you, on his hat, on his helmet, in sort of pseudo-Hebraic letters, sort of Jewish-looking letters, was the name Dumont. And they looked up the book, and there was actually an artist called Dumont, Adam Dumont, who worked in Bruges at the same time. So almost certainly this is by him, because so nobody else is going to put his name on somebody's hat. So that sort of gets this one off Hubert's back. I'm not sure, to be honest, how many pictures are still given to him. This one's in the Metropolitan Museum in New York, and yet another Annunciation, which is handy to see. That one, by the way, is in Rotterdam. If you happen to be there, you probably won't go there. But you might go to New York, so you see this one. And again, it's relatively rare to have Mary standing here in the doorway of a church. And again, there's a ton of symbolism here. If we had an hour and a half, I could talk, I mean, there's 53 different flowers, all of which mean something over here. Dove of the Holy Spirit, quite nice Gabriel shown up in his best outfit. He's always just got his wings back from the cleaners as well. They're rather lovely. But you can see even symbolism here. The left side, and this is a lefty-righty thing, is it? You know, the Latin for left is sinister. So everything you do with on your left side is bad. That's where the devil lives. On the right side, which is adroit and dexterous and, you know, all the positive things. And this was, I mean, it's only just in a way recently gone away. When I was a little lad, anybody who's shown any signs of being left-handed would be either smacked silly or their left hand would be tied behind their back and it would make you only give the right hand. So, because it was bad, and you couldn't buy left-handed golf clubs or anything back then, so now things have changed a little bit. So anyway, left-right is always quite significant in these. See, there's a little empty place there that you might eventually put a statue, because that's Christ, he's on the way. There's a monkey there. Can you see on that side, there's a monkey on the left side, and monkeys were kind of us in our most animalistic form in a way. So monkeys equal libido, things like that. But this is all in a, and there's also no window on this side. You go over to this side, which is the more sort of up-to-date Gothic side. You've got nice windows because it's illumination, that sort of thing. When Christ eventually shows up after the resurrection, he's actually dressed as a gardener. So there's lots of symbolism there, because this is kind of the hortus conclusus. But it's also really falling down, so it needs a bit of weeding. So Christ the gardener is going to have to come and clean the place up a little bit, because there's so much sin in the world, basically. So on and on and on. Anyway, that was another Hubert. I'm pretty sure if you go to New York now on the label, it'll say a name Petrus Christus, which I think we might see for about a minute later on after we do Jan. He was a follower of, assistant of, collaborator with Jan van Eyck. So it's close, but it's, again, not quite right somehow. So, in a way, I mean, to be honest, who cares? I mean, does it make a difference if it's by one artist or another? Still a nice thing to look at, which is the main thing. So I'm going to introduce you to Jan van Eyck. It's a tiny bit fuzzy, I'm afraid, but it's called the Madonna in a Church, and it's not the crucial one, so this is just to sort of get us into him.